So my talk today is going to be about how we built a platform for over than 1,500 engineers in WIX over the last 4 years, right? And my name is Yuval Perry. I have two roles in WIX. One is the head of the server infrastructure groups, and the other is WIX Server Guild Manager, which deals with the daily concern, professional concerns. And as you can guess, these two roles are related. Usually I start the talk by explaining what is platform engineering. I think I can skip this slide, but here I'll mention that we do platform engineering with a twist, right? We see platform engineering as the area of, or let's say the tools and guidelines we built that shape the shape the experience from the time you know what you want to create until it appears in production, right? And I look at it as I call it the master pyramid of engineering needs, right? And when you start your project, you usually deal, or it's a small startup, you usually deal a lot with production, and then you need to go about it and take care of the CI/CD systems, right? And as you grow, you deal with other higher level of abstraction. In WIX, we have for like the last 15 years, strong groups that manage all of these concerns. And our twist over platform engineering is that we build a system that also deals with the business logic concerns, right? And I'll try to explain it during this like 30 minutes, what it means. Looking for the time wasters and the amount of cognitive load that happens during the business logic writing, and using the exact same tools that we use to build the CI/CD solutions for the business logic part, right? 2 minutes about WIX. We are perceived as a website creation platform, but we are more than that. We are dealing with every online presence of our users, right? And we now have our own platform, and also we allow users to contribute to our app store solutions, and then they expand our platform using it. Regarding the developer, which are like our clients, the server platform group clients, there are 1,500 web developers spread around the whole world, and like sites all over Europe, USA, Israel, Ukraine. Some small last slide about numbers. We have 240 million users, 6 million are premium subscribers. We are almost now today with 4,000 deployed microservices, around 1,000 lambdas in production. During a typical day, there are like 7,000 merges to master and 50,000 builds per day. It's just to put, to demonstrate the scale of our user, right? And 600 deployments per day. So almost every time you browse to WIX, you see a different WIX. It's like you can never enter the same river twice. And just last thing about our DNA, so we built a lot of solutions, and we always believe that, each time that the organization grows, we need to iterate, and even if we build something which we thought for once it's amazing, we can always improve. I always like to take the example of us deserting the concept of integration environment. Right now we have, for like the last 8 years, we only have our laptops and production. And there's a new set of tool chains or tools that help us to reach this, I call it safety while releasing to production 600 times a day. And the last one is enabling the business needs. And this is like where our story starts. I think an infra group has to always understand where the business is heading and create the solution for it. I'll use the first example, and I hope I can get you into the story. So like 6 years ago, WIX decided to be an open platform. And it took us, like the engineers, a long time to understand what an open platform means, right? And if I can now summarize it, I'll tell you that up until that point, we had the store builder where everybody can create their e-commerce solution like the store. And from this point on, we have an e-commerce platform where you can add your own delivery solution or your own tax calculation solution, and even make it an application and have other people use it or use it in your own site. So this is the story of being an open platform API first. And from our perspective, it took us a lot of time to extract like what it means. And we understood it in 3 pillars, right? One is quality. And this is like fairly simple because We know what quality means. It's just that we need to apply it into other users' code, right? Your client's code, the same KPI and metrics. The other one is uniformity, and this is like super important because the idea is that the system will look and behave the same, although it's being developed like in Ukraine, Europe, Israel, USA. So if our users, they work with booking solution, and then they want to move to work with our e-commerce solution, they don't have to go through a large set of documents to understand. So uniformity leads to their velocity, to our client's velocity, the site owners. And the last one is extensibility. As I mentioned, everything is extendable. We use SPIs for almost everything. A user can just replace one box that we have and create another box, that he wants to add to a system, like tax calculation, shipping provider, whatnot. He can add it to our system with extensible point, from webhooks to events that he receives, and he can build systems. So our journey that we passed, and this is the talk story, is that we moved from a monolith, like everybody is, hopefully everybody starts from a monolith, and to microservice. I'm not going to talk about these changes because there's a lot of content online. Then to libraries, framework, platform, and if we'll have time, our new solution of platform as a runtime. Let me start with an experiment that we had, or experience that we had, which I think helped us a lot in shaping our solution, right? So this is like we call her Dana, right? And Dana is a new engineer in WIX, and I want to describe the journey that she has to go through before releasing her first microservice, which is what she's going to do in our R&D organization, right? So Dana is a new engineer. She did the onboarding, and then she took some tasks from the Jira, and then she dropped production even, and now she's ready to handle a new domain, right? And when a person has to write a new microservice in an organization, the first thing hopefully they do is they understand the domain that they need to create, and then they go and create the API or review the design that either the product or the team leader gave them. So this is the starting point. And from this, I'll try to describe like what Dana has to learn in order to create the first service. So I'll start here. I'm starting here with the request flow, right? So the first thing she needs to do is understand how we deal with authentication and authorization, right? You need to understand how to write and verify that the user is the user and he's permitted to do what he wants to do. Then she needs to learn about input validation, right? And I'm not talking like general easy stuff. I'm talking about, let's say, uniform stuff like verifying that the email is a valid email, like it's being done in other services in WIX. Then object mapping, because we, like many solutions, we have like two levels of objects, the contact level and the database level, and they have two different life cycles, and we chose to model them in different layers. And she needs to understand how to model them, what are the restrictions, and how to automatically map them. Then probably a service RPC does at least one RPC outside of his process. We use gRPC. She needs to read some documentation about it and understand. She needs to come with to fetch a secret to contact another service. Then a data access is a whole story, because she needs to understand how to model. In WIX, we don't have transaction. Everything has to be materialized, not normalized. And there's like a big theory behind how to work with our data. Domain events. So domain events is our requirement that everything she'll do that has a side effect, she'll also release a domain event to our broker, which is Kafka in our case. So people can build a system on top of her system later on, okay? So she needs to read the documentation on how to send domain events. And the last thing is error handling, which is very important because our users now are engineers. So this is like the request flow, and she learns everything here like the recipes on how to do it. And then she comes to us and tells us, I'm ready, let's start. And we tell her not yet, because we didn't talk about GDPR and regulations and PII and how to connect to Elasticsearch and caching, which can make your solution much cheaper, and webhooks, because it's an industry standard now, and sending BI events and scheduled tasks. And then after she reads all the material here, which is kind of long right now, she returns to us and tells us, I'm ready. I'm ready to write my first service in Wix with the real business logic, which is the IP that she's going to hold. And our answer is that not yet, because we didn't talk about scaffolding and building and deploy. So she has a lot on her head. It's a lot of cognitive load. And this, I call this slide usually when your team leader asks you to write one method in production, what does he really ask you to do? Okay, because this is not Wix only concerns. This is probably most, like 90% here are industry concerns and requirements of API first services. This is what it means. So back at that time, we understood that this is quite a lot, and we created a framework. Framework is a more opinionated solution than libraries, right? Because it directs you, or it streamlines your activities and your requirements into one guideline. And this required a lot of knowledge. So we created one guideline, and we thought that we know how to write guidelines. We created one guideline which has everything in it. And back at the time, our new target was enterprise. So we enterprise clients, and we had a new list of clients which can integrate in the system, like account managers and graphic designers, and they had different restrictions. And this got a bit complicated. So we know how to write documentation. So we wrote one more documentation about handling identity in the system. So this worked for us, right? So what we do? We wrote some more documentation about how to handle logs in production and GDPR regulation, and this really worked for us. So we wrote some more documentation, right? And everything here is super important. Everything here is being created by a different infrastructure team, and it really worked well. So we wrote a new set of documentation for a single microservice, and now you can see that it's really easy to write one single microservice in production. Now, we did that experiment because when there's a lot of infrastructure engineers and everybody releases a new solution, then nobody looks at the experience of what it takes to be an engineer in an organization like that. And we saw that nobody reads this amount of, I think we counted it once, it was more than 600 pages of documentation, which is hardly readable or maintainable. And at that stage, before we went from a framework to a platform, our organization, had some couple of red flags, right? There was too many docs, and the main problem usually was that they were undiscoverable. Nobody knew where they're all located. You had to find them. And most of the people who wrote a service didn't deal with the concern. So many of the services were not uniformic, and unmanaged concerns was very popular. We had a lot of duplicate solution and a lot of communication, especially ineffective communication, like talking with DBAs to create a schema database, or waiting for a networking team to connect your service to production. And you had to wait a lot. And another issue is that there was no emergency rollout, right? So if you had like this log4j issue, I remember like from 2 years ago, where they had like a 0-day malware, then there was no easy solution to do an emergency rollout. And this whole thing leads to an organization with very low productivity. At this time, we understand that we need to go up, in the abstraction level, and moving from libraries to framework, and then now we understand that we need a platform. Okay, so this is the next stop in our journey, and we created an internal development platform. And now, what does internal development platform differ from our framework solution? So obviously, it contains the framework and the libraries, but it also contains a lot of tools that we created, and I can share some of the new cool ones, like autocomplete tools and the wizard tools, and the AI obviously tools that are integrated in CI processes, obviously, guidelines and examples. And the last one I want to focus on is consulting and support. So our organization had to change, and each team has Slack channel, each product has like the DAL or the connection to the Kafka layer, each one of the solution and teams has like Slack channel, and they're doing on-call during the day when people develop. So once we went to the landscape of IDP, internal development platform, we had to shift the way our organization behaves. And 4 years ago, we created this solution. We called it Nile, and the tagline was streamlined platformized microservice development. This was our focus, right? And this is the landscape of Nile, right? So it has all of this concerns, like it relates to the slide where all Dan is concerned, right? So there's the framework who deals with the HTTP routing and input validation, the data access layer, and even we provide migration tools to move into the solution. Now, before I'm going to talk some more about how we build the product, I want to share what we built. So it's going to be some slides about some slides with code. Okay, so try to keep with me in the story. Let's take an example where Dana has to create a function. She has to create the cart domain, the microservice, and her method is add an item to cart, right? So if I want to point you to this is the code, right, of the profile, and this is the add to cart function, and she adds this post definition, the annotation, and with the URL, and then permission, right? And then there's like some hints about data sanitization, and everything is being handled for her before she gets to the first line of code of doing her business logic, right? This is the actual code, right? She does DAL and then adds the item itself. And what does she get? So she gets all the conversions from HTTP headers to a real class, and then input validations being handled, authorization, authentication, and mapping it to proper API errors, right? Another one is a PII, it's much richer, right? In PII, I have to, by regulation, I have to encrypt my data, and then I have to respond to a data collection request or data removal request, right? So everything, all she has to do is go into her method, and over like private data, she has to mark it with annotation of PII, and she'll get and this is still a code stays the same, just the DAL update, right? And she'll get whatever she got before, plus encryption of personal data, retrieval of personal data, and removal. And this is why the solution is much richer than other, I don't know, Spring or let's go to even AWS Lambda, because if we always mention that if I would have given all the engineers Lambda solution, they'll still have to write a lot of code in order to be uniformic with business concerns. RPC, again, this is a very cool trick that we did. We understand there's a friction here because the team was managing or looking for time wasters of the daily concerns of developers, right? And we saw that RPC is another concern. There's a lot of code of finding the RPC method, the method you want to connect to, and then connecting and writing code to test the connection. And we said this is a recurring task, so let's try to automate it. And in this example, Dana needs to, before she adds the item to cart, she needs to check if it's available. Obviously, inventory is in another domain, and what she needs to do is just to add the address of the other service, and she'll have it in a one-line context, .inventory, .get, whatever she wants. And the cool thing is that in production, she'll get, so while she codes, she'll get an autocomplete automatically, because we keep all of the protofiles in a cache server and users, because we want her to have the experience of calling a method after you added a reference library. We're living in a microservices world. We want to have the better experience of coding like if it was a local library. So we added this and connected it with using our plugin. So what does she get right now? Everything she got before, but also integration with the target server and autocomplete, cool autocomplete while she codes. Query is her integration with. It's even an integration with Elasticsearch, but here it's a simple query. One of the users want to use the promise of an open platform, and he wants to create an application that searches for abandoned carts, right? And Dana, the only thing she needs to do is to define which fields are searchable, and then leave one query method at the proto, and code still looks very simple. And now the user can query the cart for carts that are greater than 3 days. Everything she got plus query validation. Two last ones. The one is like she wants to send a thank you email, and in a distributed system, it shouldn't be on the cart completion flow. So a message is being automatically sent from the database. Obviously, we don't have to ask her because we try to minimize the thing that we request from engineers, and an email will be sent only later. So what she needs to do is on the signature of the method, she needs to just say what message she wants to subscribe on, right? And then her code will look like this: on cart completed, and then she can write her business logic in here. Last one is a very complex one, but users use it a lot. It's called data extension. It's the ability to add custom data. So let's say you are a store owner and you have like engine volume or an idea that we saw that somebody wants to add to the cart a gift wrap option, right? So we want a checkbox if to add a gift wrap only his store, or he wants to add an application for many other stores. Everything she needs to she'll need to do is add another annotation that said this is extensible, and into an extended field array, her user can add a gift wrap option with a message, and you can add in the UI. So these are like a few examples of the system and what it can do, and how we removed, I think, 90% of the boilerplate code in the system. And the goal, again, here, one of the KPIs is that when the user opens the code, he sees the IP, he sees the business logic and not the boilerplate of the code. Back to how we built it. So we started with a small group of engineers, about 6 of them. And right now, I think if you count what we did with front-end engineering and system IT, there are more than 200 people working on DevX at WIX, right? And the team that built it the members are infrastructure engineers. So let's talk about what we expect from them. First, we expect everything that we expect from an engineer. But then, in order to spot the time waster and build a product, right, they'll need to have other capabilities like identify and define the products, or great communication skills, or knowing how to work with feedback, right, and creating engagement. And the most important thing is adoption, creating solution that will be adopted by the users. And this, we figured, is a whole set of requirements we have from product engineers, right? Because our platform right now sells 1,500 engineers. It's a real product. And I want to talk a little bit our principle while we did it, and maybe I'll take 5 more minutes from the 30 minutes that I got. So we have 4 main principles, and the most important one is called boots on the ground, right? I think you might be familiar with paving the road because it's a wide-known term now in platform engineering. I'll start with boots on the ground, right? We want to have boots on the ground because we want to identify the real user need and be able to prioritize, because we have a lot of requirements. And obviously, we want to engage users because if we'll have shelfware, software that is not used, I think it's the biggest bankruptcy of platform engineering team. And for this, we built a guide, right? We call it the art of escaping ivory towers. And this is how our infrastructure teams, work. So it has 8 amendments. I'm going to run on them, most of them quickly, but I want to stop around this commit on adoption, right? So when engineering and infra team has an idea for a new product, after he validates it with the user, and we all agree that this is needed, then if it's a big feature, not every one of them, there's a certain point that the team leader or the owner of this feature tries to commit on adoption. So he will say, or she will say, I'm going to have 5 users in the first quarter, and then later 25, or I'm going to have like 50 by end of Q2. This helps them to create this all like better decisions while they create the product. Like if they committed to 5, they will probably write the integration themselves. And if they committed to 50, they'll probably write a long onboarding or try to create the documentation, the needed documentation. So I always say that if you did you committed an adoption and succeeded, you probably don't need all of the other tips to how to work with boots on the ground. Yes, but the other ones are per program with users. So when you finish, usually we go to our engineers, like that one that are located next to us, and we pair with them and we try to understand the experience. Everybody that joins our team onboards at least 2 months in the users team to understand the pain and come back with idea. We curate an advisory board that, and we expect from them to read all our designs and comment on them, and we meet them on a regular basis. The design sessions of the major things, and I have a lot of nice stories to share about it. The design is always with users, because when we, for instance, worked on our wizard for new service, if you talk amongst ourselves and server infra engineers, they will probably talk about regular expression and how to deal with these concerns. And when you bring a user, you see the real pain and what they really lack, right? So always design with users. Last one, I'll jump because of time. Treat your platform as internal OSS. So we learned how OSS are being managed, and we have an OSS page, and we get requirements. And usually when we do like roadmap sessions, then we take with pride the amount of features that we solve from the OSS page request. The last one is, the next one is pave the road, right? And this is a concept that we learned when we started building our solution. Then we landed from Netflix. I think it's a very well-known term right now. But the idea is that we need to spot where 80% of the engineers are staying, right? And then when we understand their road, the like most common road, we need to pave it and make it nice and cozy, right? And if you are off the road, then it's probably going to be very rough ride, right? But it's not on us. Like once we spotted it, then we need to bring the infrastructure with the least friction there is. KPI, how to measure, because it's a huge project and we need to measure. We had a lot of discussion on how to measure it. So is it lines of code? Because there's a lot of criticism of this one. Is it merge requests per day, like in DORA metrics? You can criticize every one of the KPIs. And what we figure is that we need to progress with KPIs. So we need to start with something. I'll give you an example. We started with lines of code. And after we felt that we exhausted this idea, then we moved to the other one. So the first one was 1,600 lines of code for a microservice is now less than 80, right? And after we felt safe with the solution, then we went to build time or failed deployments, right? And the last concept is the trust is a currency. So right now we have in our solution, once we release the new solution, we have 1,500 microservices already written in the new solution. And we learned that the way we handle, again, it's like it's a talk about how to build platforms and not as a client of a platform, right? We learned that everything that we do, we could do in one of the two boxes. One is earning currency, earning trust, right? So when we remove pain points, when we are approachable and helpful, when we are transparent, or when we understand the team concerns, right? Then we earn trust. And we earn trust only for one thing, because we want to spend it. We want to spend it on new areas and new adventures that we want to take the infrastructure group, right? And spending is either exploring new innovation, or forcing people to migrate to the new system, or enforcing processes. So we have to invest a lot in earning trust, and then we sometimes can spend a little trust to do what we want to do. That's it. Before we finish, I want to add like one more topic. It's going to be short. Usually when I finish this, there are like two elephants in the room, and I want to call them out. And if you want to talk about it, I'm ready. I'm talking. The first elephant is the black box. Okay, so are we still creating an environment for engineers, right? Will engineers still want to work with us once we have an IDP? And I can go and talk about it later, but I'll tell you this. We are doing a lot of user sessions during these years, right? We just finished like this quarter user session, 12 users. And we know what we spotted is that mid and senior engineers really love our system. It's like a system that they're happy to use. They're not using anything else. With juniors, we have a little bit of a challenge, because they feel that it's a black box and they don't get the experience of working with Kafka or working with Elasticsearch or database. What we believe that we're bringing is the challenge for them that we think is that they need to do the design, the design of a complex distributed system, design request over distributed system or like virtual transaction and with sometimes 2.5 million RPMs. And this is the challenge. The real challenge is the domain modeling and handling the request. Plus, they still have a lot of code to write. It's just not the recurring code that they have to do. So once you encrypted, a secret, then the fourth time you don't want to do it, and this is what we're moving. Again, our goal is to keep people in the flow of development. This is where I think the joy of creation stays. And the second elephant, I don't know if you spotted it or not, but usually I'm being asked about the eject out. What happens if I want to eject out? So the answer to this is I have two things. Once you eject out, it's probably going to be a rough ride because there's like a lot of concerns. Many times we do traffic shift to handle something in production, and you have to understand that you need to listen to the traffic shift event and move your traffic. You have to do a lot of things if you want bring Redis. We have now SDL support and Couchbase. If you want to bring another database, it's on you and you have to handle it. And another topic is that we tend not to release an eject out process or a way to eject out at the beginning, because at the beginning, I'll give you a simple example, we didn't release the SQL statement ability. You can't execute SQL at the first month because we wanted to hear feedback. And if we would have opened and let people eject out, then people will go around the solution, right? So eject out, we have a discussion on when to release it, and people should expect that it's going to be not as nice ride as in the system. This is it. This is our tagline: developer experience creates experienced developer, and this is it. I'm open if you have questions.
Thank you so much, Yuval. I really like your slide about earning and spending trust. I think it applies not only to platform teams as to any other team, but it's so true.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Let's jump into questions. And I see that you guys already started to put in some of them in the Q&A section. Just to remind you, yeah, we'll send over slides and recording to everyone who registered. You can also find it on Platform Engineering YouTube channel. It's being streamed there already. And yeah, let's take a look at questions. So the first question that I see in the chat, did you go back and retrofit the code that was written pre-platform?
No, because wait, there's something happened here with the light. I'm sorry, I'll have to open it. No, because we brought some new concept on how to write, or like what we did is we created a platform for our best guidelines. And in the guidelines, there's no monolith because we eased the creation of microservice. Then we have the single entity rule. Each microservice deals with one entity. It wasn't possible to go back. And plus you have data migration because we model our data now with a key value store. So they needed to rebuild the system in a microservice way.
Sense. Then you have a podcast fan, Maiten Zinger, and I listen to him. How do you decide build internally versus buy versus open source? There is already so many solutions on the market.
So when we started, we looked for many solutions. We didn't find anything that fits us. I mean, we saw some ideas which are nice, like Dapper or other solutions, but we didn't see anything that fits like an organization that writes open platform. In many of the solutions we found, we figured that there's still a lot of code that needs to be written, and we wrote something tailored to us. Right now, we're at a point that we think that maybe it's not tailored for us. The concern that I showed is probably relevant to most of the companies.
Perfect. And what is the just a clarifying question to that, like how long ago have you started?
The first service that received production was in 2020.
2020, so 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What is the portal that you're using to expose all of those amazing capabilities?
We are working on it now. We are exposing outside, like internally, how we do it, or like externally.
I guess for developers. So,
Well,
like
internally, there's a lot of ways on how we make it accessible, but externally, we are in the process of thinking how to externalize it and let other people use it, because we see amazing results. Like there's a product that was built in WIX that took it 3 days to reach production and receive traffic with 5 microservices, which was super quick, and it's a good. This is considered a success of the product.
So I guess more and more you build, like tools internally, right? Like at WIX, because I think this question is related to like portal like Backstage from Spotify or any other like commercial solutions.
Yeah, but we usually tend to build. I don't know if it's good or bad, but we build our own. So we have Dev Portal as our solution, internal solution that we built for us. But I think that we do have some unique concerns, like the fact that we have 6 data centers around the world running all of the things. We have to do smart things between them. Nothing really fits our ecosystem.
Yeah, interesting. And how many developers do you need in order to maintain it?
Okay, so in the business logic part, right? Like this is 25 developers. 25 developers.
Very little.
Yeah, do integration with Kafka, database, Elasticsearch, and all of the abstraction over the system, like key secrets. But there are like more people that doing it for the system itself, that maintain the regular DevOps that do like the DevOps work. And there are like another group that does the same for React, making sure that React is very smooth and people are in the flow while they write their own solution.
Makes sense. How many languages do you support with your platform?
Okay, so I'll give a snippet. We understood that the next step is to put it in production, and we call it platform as a runtime. We take, right now, we are bringing each engineer, we call it a big ball of mud, right? And start working with it. Now we're saying, why not why not put it in production and let the person send it just like Lambda to production? So this is our new innovation that we are going to build.
But did you answer how many languages?
So in this, I was reading that. So in this, you get a client and you work, and now we have 3 clients. We have Java client, Scala client, and Node client. So you are able to write in these 3 languages. Java is going to be released in December. We already have the Scala and the Node, and it's only when we host. We already have more than a couple of services in production working this way, where all of our code runs as a sidecar and supports multiple guests for cost reasons.
Makes sense. Do you have the problem of platform teams slowing down other teams because new feature is required?
Yeah, we do. But okay, so this project was invented by the CEO, which was the product manager for like 5 years. Okay, that's what he spent each week with us. And every few months, like 8 months, we get people are transitioned from the companies because there are less work in companies and more in the infrastructure. And we try not to block. So we grow as our feature grows, while the feature goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice. Is content from documentation, is it like shareable? Can you maybe drop in?
So this is our next thing to work on exposing our solution. So not yet, unfortunately.
Guys, you have to wait a little bit for
a
special edition. And here's more of the philosophical question, I would say. How does platform engineering differ from pure development versus infrastructure management?
So I think that platform means that you have to take more in yourself. Like once you create a platform, then you own almost everything, and you need to be able to provide like it's it's weird thing that when you go to product developers, right, our clients, and you see how they struggle with the small stuff. It's again, it's on the platform team. It's not only the the key value infrastructure solution. It's also better discoverability of our features, right? I think you have a wider look once you understand that you're a platform and not a library maintainer.
Yeah. How do you make engineering scope decisions and consolidate different opinions and needs? What languages should people use for certain things? What event-driven solutions should people go for, and so on and so forth?
So it's a wonderful question. So we took like 4 of the engineers of the group and announced that they are the product managers. They're not really product managers, but they are like the most, I think they have a lot of like good communication skills, and you can see the big picture. And they're the one calling the shot. Plus, they have an advisory board, right, of 12 people inside the organization that they can validate ideas with them. So they create ADRs or they create sessions, and the guidelines are created with the people who actually write the code themselves. It's again part of the concept of going out of the ivory tower.
Yeah, I also like this idea of yours that you have advisory board, and it sounds very good. Is it similar to Backstage from Spotify, and are you going to make it available just like Backstage is doing? I guess that's going back to the question around portal that you.
It's not that different, but it brings a lot of how you the way we maintain code in production. We want to ease, so we have a lot of tools around our dev portal, right? Like Alert Enricher. It's like a bot that when you have alerts at night, it fills all the details with it. And we created stuff that lets you see the orchestration of the clusters around all the DCs and understand the traffic. So it's been built from conclusion that we take from our war rooms that happen every now and then, and we build something for ourselves. I'm not familiar completely with, or in details of dev portal, so I don't know how to map the differences between them.
Yeah. Do you work with Terraform and or Crossplane to establish services and make operations so the activities will be transparent for developers?
So it is transparent. There's like even mainly a UI system. They don't know what it abstracts behind, if it's Terraform or not. It's not Terraform. And they have a CLI or mainly UI where they start, we call it a one-stop. This is the dev portal pod or the Backstage concept. There's a one-stop shop. You have a UI, you create your service, you get a link to the GitHub code, and then you start building it, and then you configure it, the number of instances and scale in, scale out rules, policies, everything is abstracted. The Terraform layer, or what we use instead, is abstracted behind this system.
How would Dana run her changes locally? Can she make her microservice available to her peer before her code is merged?
So this is an excellent question. It relates also to the fact that we don't have integration environment. So we educate your TDD, and we educate TDD not because we like TDD, it's because we understand that this is a technique that helps you reach a very high code coverage without like putting it as a restriction. And once you have a very high code coverage, then we create test kits between the services, and then when she runs her service, she runs it with test kits all over the mocked solution of her peers, and she's able to run it. But it's a dry run still, it's not a wet run. But we found out that any integration solution, either locally or externally at our scale, it works if you have like 30 microservices. But once you have 4,000, you can't mimic production without paying the huge price of, another DC of only integration environment. Plus, if it is broken, then it blocks everyone. So we created a new way based on TDD guidelines.
How are you making sure scaling of your platform runs smoothly?
So in the dev portal, they do have again, it's a great discussion, because since you don't have integration, then the thing that you can't really test is load, right? So we have automatic tests that runs on production, like Selenium tests that runs on production and can mimic load. And we believe that our guidelines of a single microservice plus scale out rules, we were never challenged by scale. because we can always expand a single entity microservice.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess also the adoption by developers, you touched on a little bit that more experienced ones love your platform, and then the junior ones, what do they
Okay,
do?
so I only touched the sketch of the surface of the feeling of the mid and senior. They hardly complain. They just want new feature, and they call it the Nile way. Can you create the integration with the Elasticsearch the Nile way, right? They want the easy part. Junior. So what we created is we have 5 courses. It's called booster courses when an engineer joins WIX, and in the first year and a half, he does testing guidelines, and he does domain modeling, and he goes into details of Kafka, Elasticsearch, and the database, right? And we let them know, we bring him to the kitchen, like how the sausage is being made. And we also, in EWIX, there's another ceremony, which is another topic, where every quarter, an engineer has to do one, it's called Guild Week, where he goes to another company or info team and does 1 week with them, pairing with them on a feature. So a lot of people, there's always a person that does this almost every week, and he can join the team and see, our code. Also, the code is open throughout the company, and everybody can contribute or share thoughts on Slack.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
Still, this is challenging. Like for newcomers, especially junior first year, we can see that there's a challenge there.
Yeah. How do you manage the FinOps part in your platform?
This is like a very good question, because every feature that we do has a price. Like if a service decides to move from a query inside the database to Elasticsearch, it has cost implication, right? If somebody is doing, we have inside our solution, we have an idempotency mechanism that makes sure that your request runs exactly once. So the best effort to run things exactly once using Kafka. So it has cost implication, at least at the high RPMs. So we have a measure in our dashboard, the final dashboard that is called cost per request, right? And it gives you a rough estimation of how much a request costs. So like I'll tell you the basic. If people sometimes over provision, and if you leave it like in the scale of pre-Christmas or pre-Black Friday, you'll see that cost per request is very expensive. And then if you hook Elasticsearch, you can take the cost of Elasticsearch and divide it by the number of RPM, and you have cost per RPM. And this is being monitored by the development manager in the production team. But not everything we have good answers for, and sometimes we love our projects, and even though they're costly, then we release it.
Yeah, but I also assume you built something in-house, right? Like to display and monitor it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Wow, you got so many questions, you. Is platform team segmented at all, or can anyone on the team pick up work from any discipline, for example, infrastructure, library development, CI/CD?
Yeah. So another great one, because we consider ourselves as a mature organization in the company right now. So we started as like a bunch of people, assorted people, and right now there are 5 teams. One is handling the heart of the system is the data access layer. Because once you hold, and this was another big discussion, once you hold the attributes of an entity, then you control everything: the Elasticsearch connection, the Kafka connection, everything. So the heart is the DAL, and it's a thing by its own. Also, there's an ability to run it locally or as a service, the solutions. And there's one team that does the framework thing, right? The validation of data, the HTTP request, the gRPC request, everything is being handled. So there are topics at the teams, and they're focused. It brings focus in our side.
Makes sense. When did you understand that MVP is ready for the next phase?
The first time that we release something, then we try to be with our users. We just go to the users and move 3 weeks to sit with the user, if it's a big one, or a week if it's a small feature, and work with them. And only at a certain point we release it, and then it's an official. So there's like stages of alpha, beta, alpha, and then gradual release.
But do you release it like to a certain group, to those like 12 people that are on the...
Definitely. The like first releases we do like with internal friends and we work with them closely. And then only when we release something, we try always to share in the release note that something in production runs and receives traffic, not only run. That's a very important rule.
Mm. Do you have any way to track users, for example, developers, in their usage of the platform, similar to using Pando, for example, for external products, in order to validate ideas, to confirm KPIs, or even expose gaps in process either?
So yeah, we do. We have a system that can help you like count across all of the repos. We're like 45 repos. You can count how many times this is being referenced, but we have so many features right now, so we don't really work closely. But on new features, this is the KPI. We'll check like how many integration we have every time.
Very data-driven engineering team, I can see.
Because we have large, big. We have a lot of customers. Like we have 1,500. We can work with the data from.
Cool. And then somebody wants to join your team already. What's the best way to join? Is it careers page or?
A careers page, definitely, and a personal, message in email. If you can share later the email or like LinkedIn, I'm also following, so we can.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, or reach out to you on Platform Engineering Slack channel. Let me just drop in the link here. Once again, for those who haven't joined yet. And then the last question that I see here, like, do you work with the concept of minimum viable product or minimum delight products concept? I don't even know.
I don't know. It's good. It's another. People know what to ask. It's a good question. So, I'll tell you something that there's a concept in Wix that MVP doesn't work for our size, and I know this is also relevant for AWS. Like once we open a feature, then there's a lot of traffic. So our MVP needs to be in a very good state, right? Like so we have to be very rich. We can't release something to the public with minimal value. That's what we experience because there's a lot of users. So we try to work with a bit differently about it.
Makes sense. And then there is one question from David. Sorry, David, I saw that you have your hand raised, but unfortunately it's all participants listen only mode. So there is a question: why did you choose to roll out your own portal? It says platform, but
on platform, rather than use something like Cortex.
Like Cortex, yeah, but Cortex is a portal, I guess. Yeah. So I don't know what.
Again, we really looked hard before we started working on this project. We didn't see anything that will not require engineers writing tons of code after they get. They're like amazing web frameworks, but none of them deal with our concerns of automatically integrating with database, Kafka, Elasticsearch, and European regulations, and everything is baked inside. So obviously we use Netty. This is our web platform behind, but there's a rich set of features on top of it.
Do you have a name for your platform?
Yeah, Nile. It's called Nile.
Nile. Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that, we're on time. It was very, very insightful session, packed of all the juicy details. So thank you so much, Yuval, for spending this hour with us. We're going to send over the slides and recording to everyone who joined. As I mentioned before, please join Slack. If you have any other questions after this session, you can ping Yuval on Slack. There is like events channel over there, so that you can see that we shared that today we're going to have the session and like bring in your popcorns. Regarding the platform engineering course, I saw some people asked in the Q&A the same thing. Just go to platform engineering Slack channel and ping Luca. He'll be able to share more of the details. But here are lots of flowers to you, Yuval. Thank you so much once again. And good luck with, is it Nile? Yeah. I forgot the platform. And I'll see you guys next week. We host this sessions weekly. So next week, also we're going to have an interesting session from Sicredi. They're also going to talk about their internal developer platform. So join in. And with that, hope everyone has a safe and great end of the day, end of the week. And yeah, good. It was really nice evening today. Hope you guys also have some summer vacation booked in before summer ends. And with that, bye-bye. Thank you, Yuval, once again.